Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. This Thursday, we're getting towards the end of the week. I hope you're having a very good day wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Edging slowly towards the weekend and Arsenal returning to action in the Premier League with that game at Leicester. Early kickoff on Saturday. Game that probably takes a little bit more added importance now after that game at Goodison Park last night, the Merseyside derby. That late show by Everton, snatching a 2-2 draw against Liverpool. So 2 points dropped for Liverpool in that game. We'll talk about it a little bit later on in this show. As you can imagine, though, it's going to be dominated by Kai Havertz today's show. And the news that was broken yesterday by David Ornstein, of course, that he is going to be out, or looks like he is going to be out for the season. The worst possible news. Obviously, we weren't sure yesterday morning the true severity of the injury. We knew he'd picked up this hamstring problem. Don't know if you've seen the videos that are doing around from a fan who was watching the training session where he got injured, and you see the video of him limping away with the medical staff getting taken off the pitch. It looked bad. He couldn't walk at all. It wasn't like Martinelli, for example, when he picked up that injury against Newcastle and sort of walked around the pitch and looked relatively fine. Obviously, he seems to be walking fine when he's over in Dubai as well. This looked very different. Havertz could barely walk. It looked like a bad one with that video that emerged. And then David Ornstein, of course, breaking the story that it looks like he's going to be out this season with a hamstring tear or completely torn the hamstring, same as what Bukayo Saka did. So the worst possible news. Really, really bad. So we're going to talk about that in this show. Got lots of reaction, as you can imagine, from you guys as well. A couple other questions at the end to go over. But yeah, I mean, it's impossible. You've got to start with Kai Havertz. As I said, David breaking a story yesterday that he's set to miss the rest of the season. I mean, it never rained, but it pours. In fact, it doesn't even pour. It absolutely chucks it down this season when it comes to Arsenal and injuries, doesn't it? Hot on the heels of the Gabriel Martinelli news, we've now got the news that Kai Havertz is out for the season. We all sort of said it, kind of half joking, but half expecting it to happen as well, that as soon as the window would shut, if Arsenal didn't do anything, Havertz would get injured and then be left with no strikers. And that's exactly what's happened. Arsenal have not, only played one game since that window shut, not even played a league game yet, and they've already lost Gabriel Martinelli and Kai Havertz. It's just an absolute nightmare. It is. I mean, it's not really much more that I can add than what I said yesterday and what I've said previously since the window shut. Arsenal took a huge gamble. They gambled on the fitness of the players they had remaining. They gambled massively on the fitness of Kai Havertz, who before the window shut had looked absolutely exhausted. We all saw what he was like after the Wolves game. I sat there in the press box at Molineux, saw him fall to the turf for the last couple of minutes, couldn't walk. It looked like he was holding his hamstring at that point. He basically had to be lifted up off the turf by the Arsenal medical staff. He just about got off the pitch. We all said at that point he looked done. He looked like he desperately needed help. Of course, since then, he played the game against Man City, was excellent, scored, played the full 90 minutes against Newcastle in the cup defeat. But whether those games have contributed and his hamstring was about to go, I don't know. It's easy for us to say. I'm not a medical expert. I don't know if what we saw against Wolves was a sign that something like this was about to happen. It certainly looked like it. But Arsenal chose not to give him bring in any competition for Havertz or, give him any chance of any sort of rest. They gambled on his fitness. Mikel called him, what was it, a genetic powerhouse or something like that, and talked about how his body can absorb everything. He's not even played a league game since then, and he's now out for the season. So those words look pretty hollow, it has to be said. And it's a massive gamble, and it's just been exposed. Basically, that gamble has been exposed in the worst possible way, and it's a real shame. I was so low yesterday after this news emerged, because there's still so much to play for this season. The league is still there. It's a long shot, but it's still there. The Champions League is absolutely still there. But it's just so hard, even with the most optimistic hat on, to think that Arsenal have got enough in the forward department now to get them through, to be able to really challenge for either of those two trophies now, because they're just so light in that position. I feel as well, I do feel that Kai Havertz has been let down by the club as well. I mean, it's hard to portion any blame, because I don't know ultimately who took the decision not to sign anyone in January. I have my ideas. I don't believe, and again, people go, oh, you're defending Mikel Arteta, you love Mikel Arteta. It's rubbish. It's nothing to do with that. But I just don't believe that Arteta or any manager in this situation where they basically have got no players, where they've spent the whole month sitting in front of the cameras demanding pretty much players as much as you can to your bosses, I don't believe a manager there would then to say, oh no, I really want Ollie Watkins, but oh no, I don't want you to pay an extra 10, 15 million. I don't think he cares how much Arsenal would have paid for Ollie Watkins. He just wanted Ollie Watkins. So I have to believe that decision obviously was taken by the owners, by the board, that they weren't willing to go that extra mile to try and get Villa to the table for Ollie Watkins. And you know, it just, the 60 million now looks cheap for Watkins. Although saying that, even Ollie Watkins is injured, which kind of sums up Arsenal. Even their transfer targets get injured at the moment. It's just such a shame. It really is. And I'm not going to go over it again because I said it all yesterday. It's just a real shame, and it's going to be. I mean, we've all just got to get behind the players that are here now. And there's Trossard, there's Sterling, there's Nwaneri. We've all just got to get behind them and hope that we can find a way to win. I think it's really important that Arsenal now focus a lot on what they are really good at. It might not be pretty now between now and the end of the season, or certainly until Saka or Martinelli comes back. It might not be pretty, but you've got to find a way to win. When Odegaard got injured, initially, Arsenal found a way to win before it started to just edge away a little bit, and maybe teams worked out how to play against Arsenal without Odegaard. But initially, they found a way to win. They relied on their strengths. They were strong defensively. They scored some set pieces. We're going to have to do that now more than we have done all season, to be honest, because the options are so light at defence. So it's a blow. It's a real disappointment, but there is still a lot to play for, and we've got to try our best to actually find a way to win these games. As you can imagine, there's been lots and lots of reaction. Denler's got in touch, said, I hope you're well. If Havertz is out for the season, which wouldn't surprise me at this point, he looks like he is. Call me a madman, but I'd be very tempted to start Calafiori up top. I know people will read this and call me stupid, but I think he could do a short-term job there until Martinelli and Saka are back, whoever first. I think he has shown through his movement and finishing he could be a temporary solution. He has a similar build to Havertz. Also mean he wouldn't have to start our three remaining forwards, keeps one option on the bench, and we have three left-sided centre-backs, Kivior to cover at left-back. Thoughts? I would accept Mourinho there, though I feel Calafiori would actually score, provide a bit more threat. Then Nick underneath says, I'd be tempted to push Gabby up front. Calafiori is another one of centre-halves who is confident in the penalty area. Also give Giroud a call, see if it's okay for him to do a cameo every week for a while. Butler is a bit raw. He will spend too much energy in his first few run-outs, but he can do a job. Cavier is a bit 2D, but he is up against a slowish left back. He is fine if he plays with Butler, Deji and Nwaneri. They might know each other, so they might well click. It is a big, big ask to win the league, and I'd be grateful if we make European football next term, but you never know. I have to say, and I've seen a few of these shouts for Calafiori for chuck big Gabriel up front. It's all well and good saying that now, but I think if we really saw that in reality, I know Calafiori has scored a couple of nice goals this season against City and against Wolves, obviously. But if you put Calafiori as a centre forward, it is going to look very, very quickly like you've got a centre back playing centre forward. I don't think we can just take those finishes and think, he can do a job there. It's easy to say that, but I honestly think in reality we would very soon change our minds if we saw that on the pitch in a Premier League game. I just don't think that is a viable option. I think you've got to go with what you've got, and Arsenal have got Leandro Trossard right now who can do a job as a false nine. He's done it before. He's done it well before, and he's going to have to do it again. Rather than Calafiori or Gabriel or even Marino, I'm moving much more towards changing a formation. I don't think he'll do that, but I think at this point it's becoming a very, very strong argument. There's a strong argument to suggest that is the best way forward for Arsenal between now and the end of the season. Abilo says, okay, we talk about forward crisis. We can sit here all day and talk about the window, but what is done is done. I just hope the board learns from this. So do I. He said, I hope they worked on a new formation in Dubai because it has to change. If you have the opportunity, please ask Arteta if they did. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be at a press conference tomorrow. They've gone and called it for 9:30 a.m. as I imagine they're going straight up to Leicester after the training session. I can't make it at 9:30 because of school run duties, which is annoying because I'd love to be there tomorrow. But yeah, when you say I hope they worked on new formations in Dubai, I hope they did as well, because I really think that has to be a realistic option for Arsenal right now with the options they have. Maybe not in every single game, but certainly in games, if you need to change or even start the odd game with it. Devon says the only two options left for Arteta is either play Marino as a false nine to build up the game, or change the formation to 3-4-1-2, where players will be utilised to play high-level possession play. To be honest, changing the system is the only practical thing which I think should be done. So that's Devon's comment there. And I do think when you look at what Arsenal have right now and how they're going to get through, the next month or so until maybe Bukayo Saka gets himself back or Martinelli gets himself back, I do look at the options they have. Just think formation change with wing backs. Then you can have 2 up front. It's not the worst option in the world. I think it's the best option they've got left available to them. I don't think he'll do it. Certainly not initially. I think at Leicester he'll play 4-3-3 and he'll have Trossard, Ranieri and Sterling up front. But I think it's got to be in his head. And if it isn't, I think it should be, because the players are there to potentially do that. It is disruptive. They haven't played that system in a long, long time. It might take some getting used to. But I think when you look at the centre-backs they have, you look at the options they've got to play at wing-back, you look at what they've got left up front, I do think it's a realistic option that could work. And I agree with what Abilo says there, talking about, I hope they worked on those formations in Dubai, because I really do, because you've got to think outside the box here with the injuries that Arsenal now have and the options they have up front. The Ultimate Athletes asked, can we bring Vieira back just for numbers? Or was that only in the transfer window? We had that option. It was only in the transfer window. There was a small little window at the end of December, I believe, where Arsenal could have recalled Vieira. That's obviously before the injuries to Jesus and Saka and Martinelli. I think it was just at the start of the transfer window, or just before the transfer window opens. They could have activated that option, but that option is not there anymore. So no, Vieira is going to stay for the remainder of the season in Portugal. That's not an option that is available to Arsenal. Right, moving on quickly. Obviously, big night for Arsenal at Goodison yesterday. If you still believe Arsenal do have a chance for the title, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. As I said, can't say no, can't wave the white flag. You got to try. Stranger things have happened, but it was an amazing finish to an amazing game, to an amazing rivalry in the last game of the last North London derby, last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. James Tarkowski scoring in the 97th minute to snatch a 2-2 draw at Everton, sparking absolutely unbelievable scenes there, which makes me laugh. People saying, oh, how are they celebrating a draw? It's like, are you kidding? Do you even understand football? It's your big rivals, your final game at Goodison. It looks like you're going to lose to your big rivals in your final game at Goodison, and you snatch a 97th minute winner, a rocket in front of the Gladys Street end into the top corner by a centre-back. How are you not going to go mental at that point? They deserve to celebrate as much as they did last night. It was a special moment, proper football moment, that. And brilliant finish. And a blow for Liverpool, no doubt about it. You concede late like that, it's a real sucker punch. It feels like a defeat. It comes on the back of their FA Cup defeat as well. They've got Aston Villa to come away from home next week. I don't know who they got this weekend, but it'll be at Anfield, but I don't know who they've got. So I imagine they'll win that as it's at Anfield. But then they've got a tricky trip to Aston Villa next week as well. So, difficult times for Liverpool. 7 points is now the difference. I think I've got the league table here. You look at it, 7 points is the difference. That was their game in hand. So they've missed out on the opportunity to move 9 points clear. If Arsenal win against Leicester in the early kickoff on Saturday, that gap is down to 4 points. Yes, they would have played a game more, but still 4 points it feels a lot shorter than 7 points. So it's not absolutely over. I think Liverpool win that game yesterday. That was it. I would have absolutely said it was over. It's still a long shot, especially with the injuries that Arsenal have, but you've got to keep believing, haven't you? And Liverpool aren't out of sight just yet. And so there is something to cling on to. I do think it'll be interesting. These are scenes afterwards. If you saw it, you had Arne Slot was sent off. The assistant manager was sent off. So God knows who's going to be in the dugout for their next game or next couple of games, however long their suspension is going to be. Curtis Jones was sent off. It all kicked off at the end. Everyone's surrounding Michael Oliver. massive rows in front of the away fans. Bottles being thrown from the Liverpool fans onto the pitch, into the Everton players. Got to imagine if Arsenal did this. Imagine if this was Arsenal. I can't even imagine how many column inches over the next week or so would be dedicated to how much of a disgrace it was, and the disgraceful scenes, and how they've let the officials down, and how they've sent out a bad message to all football fans and young fans about how you can respect referees. Imagine if Arteta did what Slot did and got himself sent off. Honestly, it'd be like the world was ending, and that Arsenal were an absolute disgrace, and they should be, fronted up in front of court, and that everyone should be able to throw rotten tomatoes at something. Will we see that now? Will we see that sort of reaction? Will Jamie Carragher get on his soapbox? Gary Neville get on his soapbox? Sit there for half an hour and an hour talking about how much of a disgrace it was? Absolutely not. Of course they won't, because it's not Arsenal, because it's Liverpool. But yeah, it was interesting to see Liverpool lose their heads. I actually kind of like what Curtis Jones did, to be fair, because Decore went and celebrated at the full-time whistle in front of the Liverpool fans. And if I was an Arsenal fan and someone did that, and it roles reversal and someone had gone up and celebrated in front of the Arsenal fans, I would have wanted one of my players to go up and stand up for the fans. So I actually kind of like what Curtis Jones did, to be fair. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what sort of reaction they get. You imagine Liverpool is certainly going to get charged. You think Arsenal got charged for confronting the referee after the Wolves game or after the red card in the Wolves game? I mean, just look at those pictures now. The fact Liverpool got 3 red cards and all surrounded the referee and caused a mass melee of the players. You know, they should be getting hit very, very hard by the FA, and I imagine they will. Be impossible not to. But yeah, big night at Goodison, dramatic night at Goodison. Lots of fun to watch, and we'll wait and see if it proves sort of a defining moment in the season. We've still got a lot of time to play. Sea Lord here has got in touch. It says, hey, Charles, when we get a sporting director, do you think part of his role should be to talk publicly at relatively regular intervals? We hear a lot from Arteta at press conference, but he is only in charge of so much. For example, he seemed to want Arsenal to make a January signing almost as much as the fans did. Although some of the responsibility must lie with him, prioritising other positions previously. I can't believe Arteta was happy how short we've been left. So in the future, it'd be good to hear from those who ultimately make those decisions on what we approach. On what the approach was and how it happened. I agree, but it just doesn't happen in English football. You go abroad and sporting directors do have to face the press. They do have to answer questions about what's going on. It's always the managers that get chucked up in front of the press here, and only the managers. And they have to, it's often, you know, especially if things are sort of going on behind the scenes. And I always think they're not the right people to ask those sort of questions. And you're right, you know, it'd been great to sit there and fire questions at Jason Ito or fire questions at Josh Kroenke about exactly what the approach was and why the club decided not to spend any money in January. Because at the moment we can only ask Arteta, and he's going to sit there and absolutely hammer his bosses, hammer the owners. It would be good, but it's just not something that happens in the sort of culture of football over here. It's always just the manager who has to face questions that a lot of the time he can't really answer. And you go abroad, you go in Italy, you can go other places, go in Spain. Sporting directors talk a lot and have to talk a lot and do go up in front of the press a lot, but it just doesn't happen here. So, yeah, as much as the question is, when we get a sporting director, do you think part of his role should be to talk publicly? I do. I think it'd be a really good thing for English football if that were to happen. But do I expect it to happen? Absolutely not. It will continue the way it always has. And it'll just be managers fronting up in the press conference that they're contractually obliged to do because of all the media rights. But other than that, I think we're not going to get anything else, which is a shame, because I think it would be a good addition to the English game. Certainly a good addition, because fans will get to hear from the people who really make the ultimate decisions when it comes to signings or, you know, decisions that are way over the manager's head. And that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. As always, do enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll be back tomorrow as we start to really look ahead to that Leicester game. Mikel Arteta's press conference is 9:30 a.m. So I'll do a video after that reacting to some of the big talking points from that press conference. It should be a pretty lively one. Have a great day, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.